If you're in the process of building your professional video podcast studio and are looking for a professional camera and lens combo to achieve that cinematic look you see in some of your favorite shows, well, the Sony A7 Mark IV is a great option for you. In this video, we're going to show you how to set it up and what lens to use, and we'll run some tests so you can judge the incredible picture quality of this setup. The Sony A7 Mark IV is going to make you look like a movie star or like a podcast star, because why not? It is a Saturday, and we've been working, Steven has been working since 5 in the morning to achieve this. So we are working on a project for a client, giving him the training to use the Sony A7 Mark IV and a zoom lens. He has all of this equipment in the studio, so now we have to teach him how to use it. And the best way is for us to make these video tutorials.
That's what's really cool about using these Sony cameras to demonstrate the Sony cameras is they have really good crystal clear.
Oh, and then my face.
Yeah. They have really good crystal clear focus, especially on close-up objects, and so it's really good to see all those little parameters and everything. Zoom in on her. I think this is also how we are going to be teaching camera technology and all sorts of things. We experiment with different advanced POV shots to increase the efficacy of the learning.
Do you think we'll be able to pull this off? Is Steven's computer going to explode? So now that you've seen our sweet setup to capture every single angle of this camera, I'm going to ask Steven to show you one of the tutorials that he shot showing the menus and important adjustments you need to make if you are using this camera for a video podcast setup.
Okay, so let's get cozy with the A7 Mark IV. You can see for this example, I'm using the FE28 24-70 GM or G Master zoom lens. And this lens has a zoom ring on it. So when I spin it to the left, the shot gets wider. And when I spin it all the way to the right, the shot becomes more of a telephoto shot. You'll see it's 70 millimeters for the focal length when I'm zoomed all the way in, 24 millimeters when I'm zoomed all the way out. So now let's get familiar with all of the buttons, and we'll especially focus in on the ones that we are actually going to use every day. Let's start on the back of the camera. First, to the left-hand side, you'll see menu. That's a very important one that we'll be clicking into all of the time to access the menu on the camera. Next to that, you see C3. We also see a C1 button on the other side. These are custom buttons that professionals use. You can customize really anything you want to work with these buttons. That's something very advanced that we're not going to get into. Then there's this button AF on. That will turn the autofocus on. There's also a magnifying glass little icon next to that, as this button will also commonly work with your focus magnifier. Then this button in the top right corner, AEL, stands for Auto Exposure Lock. This will lock your current exposure settings into place. This is again pretty advanced and we're not going to get into it. Underneath all of that, we see an FN button that stands for Function. This is an important button that we'll be pressing all the time as it brings up our function menu. Notice as I press it, I get this function menu that pops up on my screen. After that, I have this wheel that works as a scrolling wheel that will fast scroll through lists and other functions on the camera, but it also has buttons underneath it at the top, bottom, left, and right that you can actually push into. Notice the top one says DISP, that stands for display. When you click or push into it, it changes your display options on your monitor, as you can see here. I like to press it until it has really just the minimum amount of things displayed, or even this display right here is great. As you can see, it's giving me an audio meter, and in the bottom right corner, that's giving me a histogram, which actually shows me my exposure levels. We won't get into the depths of histograms, but know that the left side of the histogram represents black and the right side represents white. Now, moving to the right side of the circle here, we see ISO. This is our exposure settings. And ISO in digital photography is really artificial light or artificial exposure. When we press into the ISO button right there or push into it, you'll see ISO comes up and we're able to choose our ISO settings. At the very top, there is also auto ISO, which is where many people will choose to keep it. Finally, at the very bottom, we have a play button and a trash button. The play button allows us to preview recordings that we've made on the camera, and the trash button allows us to delete things from that same menu. Before we move to the top of the camera, let me focus in on this little knob up here where you see these three teeny icons, one that looks like a picture camera, one that looks like a video camera, and one that says SQ. On the opposite side of those icons, you can see it from the top view here, there's a little button that you can press in. And when you do, it allows you to spin this. If you spin it to the left, it goes into photo mode. This is video mode. And then S and Q stands for slow and quick. This is a mode you'll go into if you're interested in doing time lapse or slow motion. So we're going to be in this video mode, the center mode, the majority of the time. So now we can move to the top of the camera and discuss these buttons here. Again, you see a C2 button. This is just another custom button that you can program if you're an advanced photographer. The red button here is the classic record icon that we're used to seeing everywhere. So this is where you would press record on this camera. In front of that, we have the on-off switch. And then the button in the middle of the on-off switch is actually your shutter release or how you take a photo with this camera. There are two wheels here. The wheel to the right is actually a quick f-stop boost or reduce. You'll see as I turn it to the left, the light is becoming more exposed because it's giving me an additional f-stop of exposure up to the left or up to the right. This is great if you just know your shot is a little underexposed or a little overexposed. It's a quick hack to just simply reduce the exposure or increase the exposure. More of a photographer's handy tool, so we probably won't be using this very much either. The wheel to the left of this is one that we will use occasionally because this wheel will control settings dependent on what we have selected here, and we'll be using it in our aperture priority mode. Now, the main wheel in the middle is what I like to think of as the modes of operation wheel. And you'll notice over to the left side here, there's a little white dash. And that white dash points toward whichever one of these letters or selections we have selected simply by turning this wheel. So let's start with M. When we click it into M, you'll notice our display changes as well too, letting us know that we are now in manual exposure or manual mode. And this allows us to manually control both the shutter speed and the aperture. So this is really the choice of professionals because it gives you the full creative control. For the most part, we are not going to hang out in manual mode. When we switch to S, this is shutter priority mode. In this mode, you select the shutter speed and then the camera will automatically adjust the aperture. The use case for this is when you're trying to capture a lot of movement, like in sports photography or videography. So we're not really going to be hanging out in this mode very often. The next on the list, A, stands for aperture priority mode. And this is the mode that we are going to be hanging out in most of the time. And the reason for that is in this mode, you set the aperture and then the camera will automatically adjust the shutter speed. So this is a great mode for controlling our depth of field to achieve that sought after blurry background. The next mode down from that is the program mode or P. And here the camera will set both the shutter speed and the aperture automatically, but you can still adjust other settings. So this is suitable for quick shooting scenarios where you just need to focus on composition rather than exposure settings. And finally, auto mode. This is the full automatic mode where the camera will handle everything automatically. This is really best for beginners or those who aren't comfortable with DSLR cameras yet. This is a great place to start, especially if you're shooting solo to avoid making mistakes. Finally, the 3, 2, and 1 you see there are simply custom settings. Again, you can set these up to your own custom settings. This is good for advanced photographers. So moving forward, you're going to be accessing the menu button. You'll access this function menu button here. You'll be clicking into the display option and the ISO option quite frequently. This little wheel along the top here will be selected into that video camera mode. And we are going to keep our camera in A or aperture priority mode. And congratulations, you're now officially cozy with the Sony A7 Mark IV.
Okay, so I'm excited to show you this beautiful lens in action so you can see why it's our go-to for multiple situations and studio sizes. I love this lens because it really illustrates what you could think of as the trifecta of the focal lengths that every content creator needs in their toolbox. And that is the 24mm, the 35mm, the 50mm, and with this lens, you also can zoom all the way up to 70mm. So let's take a look at how everything changes in the shot from the way I look to how the room or the studio looks around me. So we'll start all the way zoomed out at the 24mm. For this, I'll have to move myself much closer to the camera, about 25 inches. And now let's bump it up to 35mm. And here I will have to step back from the camera about 3 to 4 feet. Notice the background now appears closer to me. And then as we zoom to the 50mm, again, I will have to move myself this time about 5 feet away from the camera. And when we're all the way zoomed in, you can really see that everything has been kind of squashed together. It almost looks like I'm against the wall, even though there's 8 feet distance between me and the wall.
All right, now hold on. I know the zoom is amazing, but we still have work to do. You've got to know all about the menus in this camera and how to adjust the settings so this works properly as a video podcasting camera. We better get to it.
Okay, now let's take a look inside of the menus that we're going to be in with the Sony A7 Mark IV. To start with, let's click on our main menu button right here and access the menu. Now that I'm in the menu, I'm going to use my wheel here to navigate around. I'll use the buttons that are underneath the wheel on the top, right, bottom, and left. And I'll also use the selector button in the middle. We are going to start right near the top with this camera icon. Notice if you press the left button all the way to the left, you'll actually enter into what I think of as category view, where you can quickly move through these big categories. And this can be a quicker way to navigate around this very complex menu. So once you find the category you like, you can either select into the category by pressing the center button, or you can even move into the category by pressing the right button. The first place that we're going to start is right here with the number 1 option here. Notice that the numbers are also color-coded red to go along with this shooting category. You can also refer to this as tabs and subtabs, but I'm in number 1 here under the shooting category. And when I click into that, I'm given this list here. First thing we are going to take a tour through is the top item here, and that is file format. When we click into that, we have 5 different file formats. What do all of these mean and which one should we use? Let's first go through each one, and then I will tell you the ones that I choose to use on a regular basis. The one at the top, the HS4K, this uses the H.265 codec. This offers a higher efficiency and better compression, so this is a great option for capturing high quality 4K footage with smaller file sizes. The one down from that, the S, is what I think of as the standard 4K, and this is the classic 4K H.264 codec that's widely used across different Sony cameras. This is great for general resolution 4K recording, balancing quality and file size for everyday professional videography. Underneath that, we have standard HD. Same as above, only here now you're 1080p quality, smaller file sizes, and lower quality video. Underneath that, we have our 2 SI options. These SI options are what Sony calls an all-intra format for 4K video. This offers the highest quality with less compression because each frame is recorded independently. And so this results in really large file sizes, but maximum image quality. So this is ideal for professional products where maximum video quality is critical, like filmmaking or high-end commercial work. So it should be no surprise that these 2 in the middle here are my go-tos. And this one here, the S4K, would be the one I would recommend you stay in most of the time. If you're trying to limit your file sizes, then I would first experiment with this top one here, where you get the H.265 codec, which will give smaller file sizes, or even go into the 1080p below it. Okay, now we can go back into our previous window by simply selecting the choice that we want. And now we're back into this list again, which is under the number 1 subcategory, image quality. And we're going to go down one into movie settings and take a tour through this page. Here we have the option of a recorded frame rate at the top and our recording setting at the bottom. The recorded frame rate, most of the time, we're just going to keep this in 30. You could also put it up to 60 if you're capturing a lot of movement, but 30 is just an all-around great setting here. Underneath this, we have the record setting. And this is where you can also increase the quality and increase the file size the higher the numbers get. The big M here stands for megabits per second. So this top one is a very exciting option on the Mark IV here because it gives 140 megabits per second, which is a ton, and also a 4:2:2 color ratio with 10-bit recording. But here, my go-to setting here would just be this 60 megabits per second. This is still very high quality and helps you to keep those file sizes manageable. So now I can just press the back button here and I'll return to the previous menu. And let's go ahead and press the left button again to return to this previous menu. And now in this shooting category, let's advance now to number 2. This is one you will be coming into on the daily, and that's because this is how you format your card. Let's click into this media subcategory, and where you see format, go ahead and click into format. And now this will show you which slot you have SD cards in, and you could choose to format it by simply selecting the slot in question. option. It tells you this is a quick format that will also delete all of your data. Go ahead and say enter. Formatting is really a best practice. Every time you're about to shoot, you want to reformat your card. So remember, that is in number 2 inside this main shooting category here. And that's it for the shooting category. Now let's go to one more category and look at some settings there. We're gonna go all the way down to the yellow category, or the toolbox icon, which is also known as the setup category. So now if I press the right button to advance into the subcategories, I'm gonna press down until I get to touch operation, and I'm gonna go ahead and click into touch operation. And the setting that we want to adjust is this one at the bottom that I have grayed out because I'm actually recording the HDMI output. So I'm temporarily going to unplug the HDMI so that you can see this adjustment. So now that I have unplugged my HDMI cable from this camera, this option is now selectable, and we'll want to select into where it says touch function in shooting. And we'll want to make sure that touch focus is what we have selected. This is going to enable us to use our spot focus feature. And now I can plug back in my HDMI cable. So now let's go back into the previous window or menu by clicking the left button. But we're not done with this setup category yet. We're going to continue to scroll down until we get to number 9, the power setting option subcategory. Let's go ahead and click into that subcategory, and we're going to make sure that this camera is set to not power off or automatically turn off on us when we're in the middle of our podcast episode. The first one here, when it says auto monitor off, make sure that says does not turn off. The next one down, this is actually the power save for our little LCD screen. So we want to click into that and make sure that it says either 30 minutes or off. If it's set down here to 1 minute or 10 seconds, that will get very annoying very quickly that your monitor keeps turning off on you. And back to the previous menu. Now let's go down to the very bottom where it says auto power off temp. We want to click into that and make sure that it is selected at high instead of standard. It defaults as standard, so make sure you have it set as high. It will warn you, go ahead and accept the warning. And that's it for this power setting option. Let's go back to our previous page. And now we're just gonna visit one last subcategory here, and that is number 12, or the external output. So let's go ahead and click into that page. And here, the first one at the top, HDMI resolution, let's click into that. We're going to want to ensure that this is actually set to 2160p. Instead of auto. Now we'll continue down, and this one is very important, HDMI info display. You'll notice that I have mine set to on. If I click mine to off, now you just see the camera shot. And so that is the setting that you will want to ensure it is set to. Make sure the HDMI info display is set to off. I'm gonna keep mine set to on so that you can actually see the info here being displayed. But if yours is set to on, then when you're not in your menu, all of the information, the standby, the audio meters, the histogram, all of that will be sent out your HDMI cable and into your recordings. So let's go back into the menu again and make sure that that's off, and that's it. You have made it through the initial menu here. So now we can press the menu button here and get out of this menu. And now let's move on to our next menu, and that is our function menu, or this FN button here. Let's press the FN button and let's get comfortable with the options here. Here you have some quick boxes. You'll notice along the bottom that it gives you these wheels icons and it says change. That allows you to actually change quickly any one of these boxes that you're hovered over. By then turning the wheel, it will change it to the other options. So that's kind of a quick way to get into these options. I actually prefer just to click into the menus myself. But the first one we're going to take a look at is this one near the top left. When you hover over it, it says focus mode. Click into this. We're going to want to make sure that it is actually set into autofocus. Many of our lenses will also have a physical switch on the lens that you will have to set to AF or autofocus to also work with the autofocus with your camera. Let's press the function button again and move over to the neighboring box. This one is called focus area. Let's go ahead and click into this area. And here, the one that we're going to select is this spot focus here. This is a flexible spot. And if you press the over key, you're actually able to change it to spot S, spot M, or spot L. And yes, that's small, medium, large. I prefer just the M, the medium box here. And we'll go ahead and press the center OK button. And now to illustrate what has happened here, I will again have to unplug my HDMI cable. Now you'll notice that this little box has appeared, and this is really cool because this allows us to change the spot that we want the camera to autofocus on. So if I zoom in on this shot here, I can now select the area I want to focus on. So for example, if I want to focus on the microphone, I can put the bracket over that microphone and everything else goes slightly out of focus and I get a nice blurry background. Notice that the lens behind the microphone on the table is also now subtly out of focus. I could again then bring this lens into focus and that will allow the microphone to go a little bit out of focus. And of course I can select that PSS in the background and now the PSS on the back wall has gone into focus, that tree back there is in focus, and the microphones in the table are out of focus. This is a really handy way to focus because you can click on the speaker's forehead, and then when the speaker moves their hands, the camera won't be constantly trying to bring their hands into focus instead of their face. Also, using this setting, the camera will not mistakenly focus on the microphone that is typically in front of the person speaking, which is a common mistake that happens from autofocus. So this is a much better way to use autofocus is to use this flexible spot. Okay, let's plug the HDMI cable back in. Okay, now let's quickly finish up with this function menu and take a look at one other box here, and that's the one underneath focus area, which is our white balance box. If we click into that, we can have auto white balance, which is where we are going to keep things for now. But it's good to know that you can quickly change your white balance to different settings here: daylight, shade, cloudy, incandescent, and then you also have some custom options down here where you can set your own white balance and make your own custom white balances, which is an advanced technique that we'll be covering in future videos. And now you are cooking with gas and ready to record some seriously professional video with the A7 Mark IV.
I know choosing the right equipment and learning how to use it in the process of producing a video podcast can be overwhelming, but you don't have to do it alone. We can help you put together your studio and give you and your team the training to launch a professional video podcast. Also, if you're looking for a video podcast setup for your home office instead of a professional one, let me show you how I turned my home office into a multi-purpose video podcast studio. I shared all of the equipment I use to record audio and video and the lighting. Go check it out.